Auntie Shanaz was a quiet woman in her mid-50s, living alone in an old two-story house in the city's oldest neighborhood. The house had once been filled with noise, family gatherings, children running up and down the wooden stairs, late-night laughter echoing across the rooms. But now it felt like a shell drained of life. Her husband had passed away 5 years ago. Her only son lived abroad, and the silence inside her home felt heavier than the thick dust layered on the furniture. But within that silence, one object remained untouched, unmoved, unchanged. A gray, old-fashioned landline phone. It sat in the living room's corner, almost like a forgotten relic from a life that didn't belong to her anymore. It had a thick spiral cord, yellowed buttons, and a cracked receiver that nobody had touched in years. Auntie Shanaz had a modern smartphone, video calls, social media, everything. She had Wi-Fi. She had no use for the landline. Yet whenever someone suggested throwing it away, she always said, "No, leave it. It's just a memory." But she never explained whose memory. She never talked about it. She didn't clean it. She didn't move it. She didn't even look at it, as if staring at it too long might wake something inside it. New moon, the night, everything changed. That night, the electricity kept flickering off and on. The house lights dimmed, brightened, then faded again, like they were breathing. Outside, stray dogs barked at something unseen, and the wind slammed against the windows with restless impatience. Around 12:47 a.m., Auntie Shanaz sat in her room, knitting in her dim bedside lamp's glow. The silence of the night felt thicker than usual, as if the house was listening. Then, it began. At first, she didn't notice it. A faint vibration in the floor. A quiet hum, like electricity crawling through the walls. And then, R-R-R-R-I-N-G. 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 The landline rang. Auntie Shanaz froze. Her knitting needles slipped from her hands and fell on the carpet with a soft metallic tap. That phone hadn't been connected for years. The telephone company had cut the line. The cord behind the table wasn't even plugged into the wall. It should have been impossible. But it rang again, louder, sharper, urgent. R-R-R-R-I-N-G. Auntie Shanaz grabbed her shawl, trembling as she stepped out of her room. Her footsteps echoed unnaturally in the hallway, as if the house had suddenly grown larger, emptier. When she reached the living room, the old phone was vibrating on the table, the light on it blinking, the sound shrill and piercing in the dark. She whispered to herself, "This can't be happening." The phone rang again. Her hand moved toward the receiver slowly, almost unwillingly, like something was forcing her from within. She picked it up. Her heart hammered against her ribs. She held the receiver close to her ear. There was a brief pause, full of cold static. Then, a voice spoke, a voice she recognized instantly. A voice she had lived with her entire life. Her own voice, but younger, stronger, clearer, and filled with a fear that chilled her blood. Her voice whispered, "Don't go outside." Then the line went dead. No breathing, no static, no click, just pure, suffocating silence. Auntie Shanaz's hands shook as she slowly lowered the receiver. Her own voice, calling from a phone that wasn't connected, warning her with terror. Don't go outside. But outside what? Outside where? Outside when? She took a step back, and that was when she heard it. A soft knock at the front door. Once, twice, slow, heavy, like someone, or something, was waiting for her. Her body froze in place, her breath caught in her throat. The landline remained dead silent now, as if it had never rung at all. But the knocking didn't stop, and the voice, her own voice, echoed in her mind. Don't go outside. Auntie Shanaz stood perfectly still, her ears ringing with the echo of the knock at her door. Thump, 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 slow, heavy, deliberate. Not like a visitor, not like a neighbor, something else. The house felt colder now, as if someone had opened all the windows at once. The air pressed against her chest, thick and unbreathable. Her heartbeat felt like another knock in the silent room. The old landline remained still, the cracked receiver resting like a dead thing. No lights. No vibrations. No sound. Yet her younger voice still echoed inside her skull. Don't go outside. She backed away from the living room and towards the hallway. The knocking continued, but now it sounded less like knuckles and more like something heavy was leaning against the door. Auntie Shanaz stopped halfway down the hall because she heard something new. A voice. A faint whisper from the other side of the door. Shanaz? Her breath caught. It sounded like, no, it couldn't be. She took one step forward, then stopped again as confusion, Fear and recognition tangled inside her mind. That voice. It belonged to someone she hadn't heard in 30 years. Someone she had lost long ago. Someone whose death she still blamed herself for. Her younger sister, Naila. But Naila had died at age 19. A tragedy that no one in the family ever talked about. A night Shanaz had buried deep inside her memory and never allowed to resurface. Not even once. But now the voice, Naila's voice, whispered again. Appa, I know you're inside. The floor beneath her feet seemed to tilt. This wasn't possible. This wasn't real. This wasn't. The landline suddenly clicked. Once. Twice. Then the dial tone hummed. Auntie Shanaz turned toward it slowly. The phone was still unplugged. Her knees trembled. She forced herself to walk toward it, each step feeling heavier than the last. Her fingers hovered over the receiver. Should she pick up? Should she run? Or should she open the door? Before she could decide, the door outside shook violently, like someone had slammed their entire body against it. Thud. She screamed and stumbled backward, her hand flying to her mouth. The knocking was gone. Now it was full-on pounding, desperate and angry. Thud, thud, thud. Her voice, her younger self, had warned her, don't go outside, so she didn't. She ran, up the stairs, clutching the banister, her breath coming in short, panicked gulps. The pounding on the door grew more manic, shaking the entire house. When she reached the top of the stairs, she darted into her bedroom and locked the door. The house finally fell silent, but only for a moment. New moon shadows from the past. Auntie Shanaz pressed her back against the door, her hand shaking violently as she covered her mouth. She needed to think. Why tonight? Why the phone? Why Naila's voice? Why the warning? Her thoughts spiraled back, years and years, to the memory she had locked away. The night Naila died, no one knew the truth. Not her parents. Not her husband. Not even her son. Only Shanaz knew what really happened that night. And she had sworn never to think about it again. She moved toward her window and peeked through a narrow gap in the curtain. The street outside was empty. Dark. No footsteps. No figure. No sister. Maybe she imagined everything. Maybe loneliness had finally taken its toll. But then, the landline rang again. The sound tore through the silence like a blade. R-R-R-R-I-N-G. Her whole body stiffened. The phone wasn't in the hallway anymore, but in her room. Her head snapped around. There it was. The old gray landline, sitting on her bedside table. But she hadn't brought it upstairs. She hadn't touched it. She hadn't moved it. Yet it was here. Ringing. Calling. Demanding her attention. R-R-R-R-R-I-N-G. She stepped toward it slowly, her fingertips trembling as she reached for the receiver. She picked it up with the softness of someone lifting a sleeping child. The line crackled. Then her own younger voice whispered again, sharp with fear. You didn't listen last time. Please. This time, don't go outside. Something is coming. Her throat tightened. Who are you? She whispered. Silence. What do you want from me? A slow inhale came through the line, then a trembling response. I'm trying to save you. Shanaz's eyes filled with tears. Save her from what? From what? She demanded. Her younger voice spoke a single word, but it felt like a knife carving into her spine. You didn't listen last time. Please. This time, don't go outside. Something is coming. Her throat tightened. Who are you? She whispered. Silence. What do you want from me? A slow inhale came through the line, then a trembling response. I'm trying to save you. Shanaz's eyes filled with tears. Save her from what? From what? She demanded. Her younger voice spoke a single word, but it felt like a knife carving into her spine. Him. Before she could ask who him was, the voice on the phone changed. It deepened, distorted, turned into something that didn't sound human anymore. A voice that growled. Open the door. She dropped the receiver with a gasp, and the phone instantly fell silent. No ringing, no static, nothing. Her hands shook uncontrollably. The air in the room grew cold. And then, footsteps, slow, heavy, coming up the wooden stairs. She wasn't imagining them. They were real, and they were getting closer. Her younger voice had warned her. Don't go outside. But no one had warned her about what was already inside. The footsteps on the staircase were slow, measured, as if whoever, or whatever, was climbing wanted her to hear every single step. Creak, creak, creak. Auntie Shanaz stood frozen in the middle of her room, staring at the thin wooden door that was the only thing between her and the presence moving closer. Her breath came in short, shaky bursts. Her lungs felt tight, her throat burning with terror. There was no one else in the house, no nephew staying over, no neighbor walking up the steps. She lived alone, and yet someone was climbing her stairs. Her mind raced back to the voice, the warning from her younger self. Something is coming. Did she mean this? Another step closer. Creak. Shahnaz's eyes darted around the room, searching for anything she could use to protect herself. The lamp? Too fragile. A glass bottle? Maybe, but her hands shook so badly she couldn't even grip it. Her knees weakened. She sank to the floor beside her bed, pressing a trembling hand against her chest, trying to steady her racing heartbeat. Creak, creak. The footsteps had reached the top of the stairs. She felt dizzy. Then, silence. A silence so deep, it made her ears ring. Shahnaz clamped a hand over her mouth to keep herself from crying out. Tears filled her eyes as she stared at the door. Seconds passed. Long, suffocating seconds. Then, soft but unmistakable, a shadow moved under the gap of her door. A shape, a figure standing just outside. It wasn't moving. Just standing there. Watching. Waiting. Shahnaz's entire body stiffened. The figure didn't knock. Didn't speak. Did nothing. Just stood there. Her throat went dry. She wanted to scream, but the terror strangled her voice. Then, tap. Just one. A single, gentle tap on her door. Not like the violent pounding from earlier. This one was intimate. Like someone knocking with the back of their knuckle. Slow, soft, almost affectionate. Tap, tap, tap. Shahnaz shook her head violently. No, no, please, please go away. Her voice came out as a whisper, barely audible. The tapping stopped. Silence again. And then, a voice on the other side of the door. Not her younger voice. Not Nyla's. Not human. Deep, raspy, breathing too close to the wood. Shahnaz, you left me there. Her blood turned to ice. No, 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 no. The voice belonged to someone else. Someone she had tried to forget. Someone connected to the night Nyla died. Her vision blurred. Her hand shot to her head. She squeezed her eyes shut. I didn't leave you. A long exhale came through the door, cold and inhuman. You did, and now, it's your turn. Her heart thudded painfully inside her chest. Who was speaking? Her memories, long buried, began to unravel in flashes. A night, a storm, a road, a scream, a man's silhouette, a body. Something they never reported. Something she and Nyla had sworn to take to their graves. She stumbled toward the far corner of her room and crouched down, hugging her knees to her chest. Please, please stop. I'm sorry. The doorknob rattled. She gasped so hard, it hurt. Again the doorknob turned, slowly, as if someone on the other side was testing how much force it needed. Then, the doorknob stopped moving. Another moment of silence. And then footsteps moved away from her room. Thump. One step. Thump. Another. Heading back. Down the corridor. Shahnaz stayed still for a full minute, hardly breathing. Only when she heard nothing else did she dare to crawl toward the door. She pressed her ear against it. Silence. Maybe it left. Maybe it was gone. She hesitated. Then, slowly, she unlocked the door and pulled it open just an inch. The hallway was empty. Her body sagged in relief. Air rushed into her lungs as she let out a shaky breath. But something felt wrong. The air smelled faintly of damp soil. Earthy. Rotting. Like something freshly dug out of the ground. She swallowed hard and stepped into the hallway. The house felt colder now. Unnaturally cold. Her bare feet prickled against the damp floorboards. She moved slowly, step by step, leaning on the wall as she made her way toward the stairs. Halfway down the hallway, something on the floor caught her eye. A small, dark stain. Wet. Glistening. She crouched down. It was dirt, but not normal dirt. It was freshly turned soil. Muddy, damp, clinging together. Exactly like the soil from a graveyard. Her lungs tightened. Why was that here? Inside her home? Before she could think further, the landline rang again. But this time, it rang from downstairs, in the living room, on the table near the front door. Her pulse quickened. No, she couldn't go down there. Her younger voice had warned her. Begged her. Don't go outside. But the ringing wouldn't stop. R-R-R-R-I-N-G. 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 She clutched the railing and descended each stair slowly. The smell of damp earth grew stronger with every step. As she reached the bottom, she froze. Her front door was slightly open. A gap just wide enough for someone to slip through. The cold air seeped inside. The phone kept ringing. R-R-R-R-I-N-G. She turned her head toward it. The old landline sat on the table where it used to be, as if it had never moved. Her trembling hand reached for the receiver. She lifted it. Silence. Not even static. Then her younger voice whispered again, terrified, trembling. He's inside the house. Shanaz's heart stopped. She slowly, very slowly turned around. And there, standing behind her, was a figure, tall, dark, not fully human anymore. The same presence she had left behind 3 decades ago. The past she thought was buried, was now standing in her living room, breathing, watching her, waiting, and smiling through a face that wasn't supposed to exist anymore. The figure stood completely still, no breathing, no shifting, no blinking, just watching her. Shanaz gripped the landline receiver so tightly her fingers numbed. Her entire body trembled as she finally whispered, "Yeah, you're not real." The figure tilted its head slowly, unnaturally, like a puppet with broken strings. Then it stepped forward. Just one step, but the sound shook her to her core. Thump, her knees nearly buckled. The man she had buried in her memory, literally, now stood in her living room. His clothes looked dirty, his skin pale, his eyes dark and empty. And as he stepped into the faint light, she saw something horrifying. Mud. Wet, black mud, dripping from his sleeves, his collar, his hands. Graveyard soil. Her voice cracked. "No, no, you're gone. You're dead." The figure smiled. A terrible smile that didn't reach the eyes. "And whose fault is that?" Her chest tightened painfully. A memory she had buried deep tore open. Star flashback. 30 years ago. A stormy night. Thunder smashing the sky. She and Nyla driving, laughing about something silly. Then, a sudden blur on the road. A man stepping out of the darkness. The car swerving. A crash. A scream. In the man's body, lying twisted in the headlights. Nyla panicked. Shanaz panicked. No one was around. No phone. No help. They dragged the man off the road, into the forest, into the mud, and buried him in panic and terror. They never reported it. They never spoke of it again. The guilt never left. But they pretended it did. Star back to present. The figure stepped closer. "You left me in the mud, Shanaz." Her breathing quickened. "I was scared. I didn't know what to do. Another step. You didn't come back. I wanted to. I swear. Another step." His voice deepened, echoing something not human. "You let me rot." Suddenly the phone in her hand crackled. Her younger voice again, frantic, crying. "Don't face him. Don't you understand? I wasn't warning you about going outside. I was warning you about what came inside." The receiver slipped from her hand and hit the floor. The figure was only a few feet away now. She stumbled backward until her shoulders hit the wall. Tears streamed down her face. Her voice broke. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to leave you. I didn't mean for you to die." The figure paused. The smile faded. The head tilted again, but this time, slower, sadder, as if listening. A long silence stretched between them. Then he whispered, not angry, not monstrous, but painfully human. "I wasn't dead. Not right away." Her heart stopped. She gasped, covering her mouth. Oh God, he had still been alive. They left him alive, in the cold mud, in the dark. His voice grew softer, breaking like an old memory. "I called for help, but you never came back." The guilt hit her like a knife. She sobbed uncontrollably. "I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry." The figure took one final step, and now stood inches from her, close enough that she could smell the wet earth, close enough to see that his eyes weren't just dark. They were filled with hurt, loneliness, pain. Not rage, not vengeance, just a soul frozen in the moment of its suffering. The house suddenly felt colder. Shadows crawled across the walls like breathing darkness. The lights flickered. Then, the figure leaned forward and whispered in her ear, "I didn't come to hurt you, Shanaz. I came because you never said goodbye." Something in his voice, the grief, the longing, thawed something inside her. She reached out with trembling fingers. For the first time in 30 years, she spoke the words she should have spoken that night. "Goodbye. I'm sorry. You deserved better." The figure closed his eyes. His shoulders relaxed, as if releasing a weight he had carried alone for decades. A soft wind, cold but strangely peaceful, swept through the house. The lights flickered again. And then, he dissolved, slowly, quietly, like dust carried into the night, leaving nothing behind except wet footprints on the wooden floor, and the faint smell of rain. Shanaz collapsed to her knees, crying into her hands. But the fear was gone. Only sorrow remained, deep, heavy, human, As she wiped her tears, the landline rang one last time. She picked it up with shaking fingers. Her younger voice whispered, soft and calm now. "It's over." Then the phone went dead. Forever. The old landline never rang again, and the front door eased shut by itself, leaving Shanaz alone with the truth she had carried like a hidden wound. The past had come back, not for revenge, but for closure. And finally, it was gone.